What happens when a rising Hollywood star known for his calm, artistic personality suddenly finds himself pushed into a tense, unscripted moment on live television, where the conversation shifts from light promotion to something far more personal than anyone expected? Make sure to subscribe to Talk Show Fallout and like and comment for more talk show coverage. So Timothy, it's so good to have you here, Whoopi says with a warm smile, leaning slightly forward at the table. You've been everywhere lately. Films, fashion, interviews. Are you even getting any sleep? Timothy lets out a small laugh, adjusting slightly in his chair. I try to, yeah. It's been busy, but I'm grateful. I mean, I get to do what I love. The audience gives a soft round of applause. The energy is relaxed, familiar. The kind of opening that feels routine on a daytime show. Joy jumps in quickly. And you've got this new project everyone's talking about. People are saying it's one of your most intense performances yet. Yeah, Timothy nods. It was definitely different for me. It pushed me in ways I hadn't really experienced before. Sonny leans in. Emotionally or physically? Both, he says, smiling slightly. But mostly emotionally. It's one of those roles where you kind of carry it with you even after filming ends. The conversation flows easily. There's laughter, light teasing, the usual rhythm of a talk show. Whoopi keeps things grounded, occasionally steering the conversation back on track. So let me ask you this, Whoopi says, folding her hands together. You've been in the industry a while now, but you came up pretty fast. Do you ever feel like people expect something from you that maybe isn't who you are? There's a slight pause. Not long enough to feel awkward, but long enough to signal a shift. Timothy tilts his head. Yeah, I think that happens to anyone in the public eye. People build an idea of you. Whoopi nods. And do you think that idea is accurate? He hesitates, just for a second. Sometimes. Sometimes not. Joy laughs lightly. That's a very diplomatic answer. The audience chuckles. But Whoopi doesn't laugh. She leans back slightly, watching him more closely now. Well, I'm going to push you a little, she says. Because I've seen some of these interviews, and sometimes it feels like you're holding back. Like you're very careful about what you say. The tone changes just enough that a few people in the audience stop laughing. Timothy smiles, but it's tighter now. I mean, I think everyone's careful in interviews to some extent. Sure, Whoopi says quickly. But there's a difference between being thoughtful and being guarded. There's a quiet, oh, from somewhere in the audience. Sonny glances sideways at Whoopi, then back at Timothy. He shifts slightly in his seat. I wouldn't say I'm guarded. I just choose my words carefully. Whoopi raises an eyebrow. Why? There's a pause. Timothy looks at her, then briefly down at the table, then back up. Because words matter. The audience murmurs in agreement. Of course they do, Whoopi says. But this is also a space where people come to be real. To connect. And sometimes when you're too careful, it feels like we're not getting the real you. That lands heavier. Joy jumps in, trying to lighten it. I mean, come on, Whoopi, you're not interrogating him, are you? The audience laughs again, but it's more scattered this time. Whoopi smiles slightly, but doesn't back off. I'm just asking questions. That's what we do here. Timothy nods slowly. And I respect that. I do. He pauses, choosing his words again. But I think there's also a way to be real without giving everything away. There's a small ripple in the audience, some nodding, some whispers. Whoopi leans forward now. But doesn't that create a distance? Between you and the audience. Timothy meets her gaze. I don't think so. Really? Yeah. I think people connect with honesty. And honesty doesn't always mean saying everything that comes to mind. There's a subtle tension building now. Not explosive, but noticeable. Sonny steps in carefully. I think what he's saying is that there's a boundary, right? Like, you can be authentic and still have privacy. Exactly, Timothy says, turning slightly toward her. That's all I mean. Whoopi nods slowly, but her expression doesn't fully soften. I hear you, she says. But let me ask you this. Do you think sometimes that carefulness comes off as rehearsed? The audience reacts louder this time. A few ohs, a few claps. Joy looks at Whoopi like, okay, we're going there. Timothy lets out a small breath. Not frustrated, just aware. I don't think I'm rehearsed, he says calmly. I think I'm thoughtful. Whoopi doesn't respond immediately. She just watches him. Then she says, there's a fine line. And I think I stay on the right side of it, Timothy replies. There's a slight shift in the energy again, this time more noticeable. The audience is quieter now, more attentive. Joy tries to ease things. I mean, look, he's here, he's talking, he's engaging. What more do we want? Sunny nods. And honestly, not everyone has to be super open all the time. That's okay. Whoopi raises a hand slightly. I'm not saying he has to be. I'm just saying, sometimes it feels like we're getting a version. Timothy's expression changes just a little. Still calm, but more direct now. I mean, everyone presents a version of themselves in public. That's not unique to me. The audience claps at that. Whoopi tilts her head. So you're saying we're all doing the same thing? I think we all, just depending on the environment, he says. That's human. There's a beat. Whoopi smiles, but it's a different kind of smile now. More measured. Fair enough, she says. But some of us are a little more open about it. Timothy nods. And that's valid too. For a moment, it feels like things might settle. But there's still something in the air, something unresolved. Joy senses it. Okay, before this turns into a full-on debate, the audience laughs. Let's talk about the film again, she continues. Because that's why you're here, right? Timothy smiles again, a bit more relaxed. Yeah, I'd love to. But Whoopi isn't fully done. Just one more thing, she says, gently but firmly. The audience quiets again. Timothy looks back at her. Sure. She leans in slightly. Do you ever worry that being too careful might stop people from really knowing you? There's a longer pause this time. Timothy takes a breath. And for the first time, there's a hint of something sharper in his tone, not aggressive, but more grounded, more certain. I think people know what I choose to show them, he says. And that's enough. The audience reacts, some applause, some murmurs. Whoopi holds his gaze. And just like that, the conversation has officially crossed from casual to something much more real. The kind of moment where everyone at the table, and everyone watching, can feel that this isn't just another interview anymore. The audience applause fades, but the energy in the room doesn't settle the way it usually does. There's still something lingering, like everyone knows that the conversation hasn't really moved on, even if it's trying to. Joy gives a small laugh, tapping her cards lightly on the table. Okay, so we're just going to pretend that didn't get intense for a second. A few people in the audience laugh, grateful for the release. Timothy smiles politely, but he doesn't fully relax. His posture is still upright, attentive. Whoopi leans back in her chair, crossing one leg over the other. She's watching him closely, not confrontational, but clearly still engaged. Sunny jumps in, trying to redirect. Let's talk about the process a bit more, because you mentioned how emotionally demanding this role was. How do you come down from that after filming Raps? Timothy nods, grateful for the shift. Yeah, it's not easy. I think you carry parts of it with you whether you want to or not. But I try to ground myself, spend time with family, step away from everything. That's important, Sunny says. Especially in an industry that can be so consuming. Exactly. For a moment, it feels like things are back on track. But then Whoopi speaks again. You said you step away from everything, she says. Does that include the public? The fans? The audience murmurs softly again. Timothy glances at her, then answers carefully. Not completely. I mean, I appreciate the support. I just try to keep a balance. What does that balance look like? Whoopi asks. It means not sharing every part of my life, he says simply. Whoopi nods slowly. And do you think that ever frustrates people? That they don't get full access? Timothy pauses, then shrugs slightly. Maybe. But I don't think anyone is entitled to full access to another person. There's a louder reaction from the audience this time. Some claps, some mhms. Joy raises her eyebrows. Okay, that was a line. Sunny smiles. That's a boundary right there. Whoopi tilts her head again. But when your career depends on people connecting with you, isn't there an expectation? Timothy's expression tightens just slightly, not defensive, but more direct now. I think there's an expectation to do your work well, he says. To show up, to respect your audience, but not to give up your entire self. The audience claps again, stronger this time. Whoopi doesn't interrupt. She lets the applause finish, then speaks. I'm not saying give up your entire self, she says. But there's a reason people feel connected to certain artists. It's because they feel like they know them. Timothy nods. I agree. So if you limit that, she continues, doesn't that affect the connection? There's a brief silence. Timothy leans slightly forward now, resting his hands together. I think connection doesn't come from oversharing, he says. It comes from truth. And truth can exist without exposure. The audience reacts again, this time louder. Joy looks impressed. Okay, you came prepared today. Timothy laughs softly. No, I didn't. I've thought about this. Sunny nods. Clearly. Whoopi watches him, then smiles, but there's still an edge to it. You're very good at this, she says. Timothée raises an eyebrow slightly. At talking. At answering without really giving much away, Whoopi says. There's an audible "oh" from the audience. Joy immediately jumps in. Whoopi. But Timothée doesn't laugh this time. He looks at Whoopi directly. I'm answering your questions, he says calmly. You are, Whoopi agrees. But you're also redirecting them. There's a pause. Timothée tilts his head. I don't see it that way. How do you see it? I see it as answering in a way that feels honest to me. The audience claps again, some louder than before. Whoopi leans forward slightly now. But honesty can also mean being vulnerable. And I am, Timothée says. Are you? She asks. That lands. The audience quiets almost instantly. Timothée takes a breath. Yes, he says more firmly now. Just not in the way you might expect. There's a ripple through the audience, some nodding, some whispering. Sunny looks between them, clearly aware of the tension building again. I think vulnerability looks different for everyone, she says carefully. Joy nods quickly. Exactly. Some people are more open, some people are more reserved. It doesn't mean one is more real than the other. Whoopi doesn't immediately respond. She keeps her eyes on Timothée. But you're in a position, she says slowly, where people look up to you, especially younger audiences. Don't you think there's value in showing more of yourself for them? Timothée's expression shifts again. This time, there's a hint of frustration, but still controlled. I think there's value in being authentic, he says. And for me, that means having boundaries. The audience claps again. Whoopi nods slightly. So boundaries over openness. I didn't say that, Timothée replies quickly. What did you say? I said authenticity, he repeats. Which includes boundaries. There's a slight pause. Whoopi leans back again, folding her arms loosely. You know, she says, back in the day, we didn't have the luxury of being this curated. The word curated hangs in the air. Timothée's eyes narrow just slightly, not aggressively, but with focus. I don't think it's about being curated, he says. What is it about then? Whoopi asks. It's about intention. The audience murmurs again. Joy looks intrigued. Explain that. Timothée nods. I think every generation navigates public life differently. Social media, constant visibility, it changes things. So being intentional about what you share isn't about hiding. It's about protecting your sense of self. There's a strong round of applause now. Sunny smiles. That's actually a really important point. Whoopi taps her fingers lightly on the table, considering. But some might say, she adds, that it creates a distance. That it makes you harder to relate to. Timothée doesn't hesitate this time. I think people relate to honesty, he says. And I'm being honest right now. The audience reacts immediately, louder applause, a few cheers. Joy laughs. Okay, audience is with you on that one. Whoopi glances briefly at the audience, then back at Timothée. And what about criticism? She asks. Does that careful approach help you avoid it? Timothée shakes his head slightly. No, you can't avoid criticism. So why not just be completely open? She presses. There's a pause. And then, for the first time, Timothée leans in just a little more, his tone still calm, but noticeably firmer. Because being completely open doesn't guarantee understanding, he says. Sometimes it just gives people more to misunderstand. The audience reacts strongly, applause, a few "that's true" comments. Sunny nods emphatically. That's real. Joy points at him. That is real. Whoopi watches him closely again. And you think you're being misunderstood right now? She asks. There's a beat. Timothée holds her gaze. I think, he says slowly, that you're trying to define my authenticity based on your expectations. The audience goes completely silent for a split second, and then erupts. Some people gasp. Others clap loudly. A few stand up slightly in their seats. Joy's eyes widen. Okay, Sunny leans back, eyebrows raised. Wow. Whoopi doesn't react immediately. She just looks at him. And for the first time, the balance of the conversation feels like it's shifted. Not aggressively, but clearly. Timothée sits back slightly, still composed, but no longer just responding. Now he's pushing back. The audience is still reacting, some clapping, some murmuring, a few clearly surprised by what was just said. The energy in the room has completely shifted now. This isn't just a slightly tense interview anymore. It's a real live moment. Joy exhales loudly, half laughing. Okay, we are officially not in the promo segment anymore. That gets a big laugh from the audience, breaking the tension just a little. Sunny leans forward, trying to steady things. Let's just take a second, because I think what's happening here is actually an important conversation. Whoopi still hasn't looked away from Timothée. Then she nods once slowly. All right, she says. Let's talk about it. The audience quiets again. Timothée sits upright, hands together, calm, but clearly more locked in now. Whoopi continues, her tone more measured. You said I'm trying to define your authenticity based on my expectations. Timothée nods slightly. That's how it feels, yeah. Okay, Whoopi says. So help me understand. What is your definition of authenticity? There's a pause, but this time it doesn't feel hesitant. It feels deliberate. I think authenticity is being aligned with who you are, Timothée says. Not who people expect you to be. The audience murmurs in agreement. Whoopi nods. And you think I'm expecting something from you that isn't you? Timothée doesn't dodge it. I think you're expecting a different kind of openness, which you don't agree with, which doesn't feel natural to me. There's a small ripple of applause. Joy jumps in again, trying to keep the tone balanced. I mean, that's fair, right? Everyone has their own comfort level. Whoopi glances at Joy briefly, then back at Timothée. It is fair, but we're also sitting at a table where conversation is the point. And I'm having the conversation, Timothée replies. That gets a few laughs and claps. Sunny smiles. He's not wrong. Whoopi lets out a small breath, almost like a quiet laugh. You're very steady. Timothée smiles slightly. I try to be. But do you see, Whoopi continues, how from this side, it can feel like you're controlling the narrative. That word, controlling, lands differently. The audience reacts again, softer this time, more curious than shocked. Timothée's expression changes just a little. I think everyone has a right to control their own narrative, he says. Even when you're in a public space like this? Whoopi asks. Yes, he says, without hesitation. The audience claps again. Joy raises both hands slightly. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of personal agency. Sunny nods. Exactly. Whoopi tilts her head. But then what's the role of a show like this? If guests come in already deciding what they will and won't share, doesn't that limit the conversation? Timothée leans forward slightly. I don't think it limits it, he says. I think it defines it. There's a pause. Explain that, Whoopi says. It means the conversation happens within a space that's honest for both sides, he says. You ask what you want. I answer what feels true to me. The audience responds with a mix of applause and thoughtful murmurs. Whoopi taps the table lightly with her fingers. But what if what feels true to you isn't what the audience is trying to understand? Timothée doesn't break eye contact. Then maybe the question needs to change, he says. That line hits. The audience reacts immediately, louder this time. A few people clap harder. Others lean forward like they don't want to miss anything. Joy's mouth opens slightly. Okay, Sunny laughs softly. That was a moment. Whoopi raises her eyebrows just a bit, clearly registering it. So now the questions are the issue, she asks. I didn't say that, Timothée replies calmly. I'm saying, sometimes the way we ask questions shapes the kind of answers we get. There's a thoughtful silence. Sunny nods slowly. That's actually very true. Joy looks at Whoopi. I mean, he's making points. Whoopi doesn't respond right away. She leans back again, considering. Then she says, let me ask you something more direct. The audience quiets instantly. Timothée nods. Okay. Do you feel like you're being challenged unfairly right now? There's a pause. Timothée thinks for a moment before answering. No, he says. I feel like I'm being challenged differently. Differently how? In a way that assumes something about me that I don't fully agree with. The audience murmurs again. Whoopi nods slowly. And what is that assumption? That I'm not being real, he says. That lands clearly. Sunny glances at Whoopi, then back at Timothée. Joy shifts in her seat, sensing how direct this has become. Whoopi responds, her tone still calm but firmer now. I didn't say you weren't real. You questioned it, Timothée says. There's a beat. Whoopi holds his gaze. I questioned how you present yourself. And I'm explaining it, he replies. The audience claps again louder. Joy laughs nervously. Okay, this is one of those episodes. Sunny nods. Yeah, people are definitely talking about this tonight. Whoopi finally lets out a small laugh. Not dismissive, more like acknowledging the moment. You know what, she says. I respect that you're standing your ground. Timothée nods slightly. I respect that you're asking the questions. There's a brief moment where it almost feels like mutual understanding. The audience softens, some applause, a few smiles. But Whoopi isn't quite done. However, she adds, the audience reacts instantly, some laughter, some oh sounds. Joy leans back. There it is. Sunny shakes her head, smiling. Whoopi continues, part of being in this space is being open to how you're perceived. Not just how you see yourself. Timothy listens carefully. I am open to that, he says. Are you, she asks. Yes, he replies. But being open to perception doesn't mean accepting it as truth. That line hits even harder than the last. The audience erupts, applause, a few cheers, people nodding. Joy claps. Okay, Sunny points at him. That's a quote right there. Whoopi pauses. She doesn't interrupt. For the first time, she takes a longer moment before responding. Then she nods. All right, she says quietly. I hear you. There's a noticeable shift again. Not tension this time, but wait. Real conversation, wait. But then Joy, sensing they need to breathe, jumps in quickly. Okay, before we all start writing think pieces at this table. The audience laughs loudly. Can we just acknowledge that this is probably one of the most honest conversations we've had in a while? More applause. Sunny nods. It really is. Timothy smiles slightly, some of the intensity easing from his expression. Whoopi looks at him again, but this time her expression is different. Less probing, more reflective. You're very clear about who you are, she says. I try to be, he replies. And you're not afraid to push back. Timothy gives a small shrug. If I feel like I need to, yeah. The audience reacts warmly, applause, a few cheers. Joy leans forward. I think what's interesting is that this isn't even about disagreement anymore. It's about perspective. Sunny nods. Exactly. Two different ways of approaching the same idea. Whoopi looks out at the audience for a moment, then back at the table. And that's what conversation is supposed to be, she says. There's a pause. And for a second, it feels like things might finally settle into a resolution. But the energy is still charged, still alive, like anything could shift again at any moment. The applause lingers a little longer this time, not explosive, but steady, like the audience knows they've just watched something that doesn't usually happen on daytime TV. Joy exhales, smiling as she looks around the table. I'm just gonna say it. This is why people watch live television. The audience laughs and claps again. Sunny nods. Because you can't script this. Whoopi leans back in her chair, her posture more relaxed now. The intensity in her expression has softened, but she still looks thoughtful. Timothy sits a little easier too, though he's still composed, still aware of the moment they've just gone through. There's a brief pause, one of those rare, unscripted silences where nobody jumps in right away. Then Whoopi speaks. You know, she says, her voice calmer now. I'm gonna say this. I appreciate you not just giving me a surface answer. The audience reacts with a small, supportive clap. Timothy nods. I appreciate you asking real questions. Whoopi gives a slight smile. That's what I do. Joy jumps in with a grin. And sometimes she doesn't stop. The audience laughs loudly. Whoopi points at Joy. Don't start. Sunny laughs. No, but seriously, this was a real exchange. And I think people at home can feel that. Timothy nods. I hope so. Joy turns toward him. Do moments like this ever throw you off? Like, you come in expecting one kind of interview and suddenly it turns into this. Timothy smiles slightly, thinking about it. I mean, yeah, you don't always expect it. But I think it's good. It keeps things honest. The audience murmurs in agreement. Whoopi watches him for a second, then adds, And you handled yourself well. Timothy gives a small nod. Thank you. There's a brief beat where the tension feels fully dissolved now. Not forgotten, but processed. Sunny leans forward. I think one of the biggest takeaways from this is that authenticity doesn't look the same for everyone. Exactly, Timothy says. Joy nods. And maybe that's where the disconnect happens sometimes. People expect one version of real, but there are actually a lot of versions. Whoopi gestures slightly with her hand. And that's fair. I'll give you that. The audience claps lightly. Then she adds, but I'm still going to ask the questions. The audience laughs again. Timothy smiles. And I'll still answer them. That gets a louder reaction, applause, a few cheers. Joy leans back, shaking her head. Okay, that's the clip. That's the one that's going everywhere. Sunny laughs. Oh, it's already trending in my mind. Whoopi glances toward the audience. What do y'all think? The audience responds immediately, applause, some cheers, a few people shouting, we love it. And that was real. The energy now feels unified, almost celebratory. Joy nods toward the crowd. They like it when things get a little spicy. Timothy laughs softly. I can tell. Sunny adds, but respectful spicy. That's the key. Whoopi points at her. Exactly. There's a brief pause as the conversation starts to wind down naturally. Joy looks toward the camera. All right, we do have to wrap this up, but I have a feeling people are going to be talking about this one for a while. The audience claps again. Timothy shifts slightly, more relaxed now. Hopefully in a good way. Whoopi looks at him one more time. That depends on the internet. The audience laughs knowingly. Sunny nods. And the internet is unpredictable. Joy adds, very unpredictable. There's a light, shared laughter across the table. Then Whoopi turns slightly toward the camera. Well, she says, whether you agreed with everything said here or not, that's the point of conversation. The audience applauds. And we had one today. Timothy nods. We did. Joy smiles. And we appreciate you for being here and actually engaging. Of course, he says. Sunny adds. And congratulations on the film. Thank you, Timothy replies. There's a final round of applause as the segment wraps on air. But the energy doesn't just stop there. Because almost immediately after the camera's cut, people are still talking. You can see it in the audience. Some are leaning toward each other, replaying moments, whispering reactions. Backstage, producers are already exchanging looks, because they know what just happened. One of them says quietly, "That's going viral." And they're right. Within minutes of the segment airing, clips start circulating online. Short edits of the moment where Timothy says, I think you're trying to define my authenticity based on your expectations. Another clip of Whoopi asking, Are you? When he said he was being vulnerable. And of course, the line that really takes off. Being open to perception doesn't mean accepting it as truth. On platforms like Twitter and TikTok, the clips rack up views fast. Comments flood in. Some people are firmly on Timothy's side. He stayed calm the whole time. He didn't disrespect her once. That's how you set boundaries. Others side with Whoopi. She was just doing her job. He was being a little too controlled. She asked valid questions. And then there are the people who just appreciate the moment itself. This is what real conversation looks like. More interviews like this, please. No fake smiles, no scripted answers, just real talk. Even media outlets start picking it up, labeling it as a tense but respectful exchange. Back in the studio, as Timothy gets ready to leave, there's no drama, no raised voices, no lingering conflict. Just a quiet handshake between him and Whoopi. A small, mutual nod of respect. Because at the end of the day, it wasn't about winning or losing. It was about being heard. And that's what made the moment stick. As the clip continues to spread, one thing becomes clear. This wasn't just another celebrity interview. It was a conversation people felt. And now it's your turn. What did you think about this moment? Was Timothy right to push back, or was Whoopi just asking the tough questions that needed to be asked? Share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to Talk Show Fallout for more real talk show stories.